Call to order the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission on this, the 12th day of November of 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mr. Hopper?
Here.
We'll let the record show that meeting or commission members, Mr. Hoover and Mr. Miller, are absent. And non-voting advisor, Mr. Zaborowski?
Here.
Thank you.
If we could, just a quick moment of silence for one of our commission members who's had what I would describe as an indescribable loss. So if you don't mind, just take a few seconds. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve our minutes from our October meeting? Absolutely. I'll second. Mr. Campbell, second, Mr. Harris. Any additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 3-0. New business, Riverfront District application for, I assume that's pronounced Verde Greenwood LLC, 1251 North US 31 Suite 140.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Greg Genrick with Bradford and Riley here for Greenwood Verde. They're taking over the old space that was Bar Louie's in the Greenwood Park Mall.
Okay.
He's got several restaurants around the city. Verde is kind of his high-end Mexican concept, with the price points going from, street tacos up to kind of fine steak and seafood cuisine.
Right.
I think he's got his first venture to the south side. Most of them are on the north and northeast side, but no major violations, strong operator, and delivers a good product and excellent service.
Anybody have any questions? Is there not just out of curiosity, the license that went with Bar Louie, what happened to it?
That is an escrow for Bar Louie. This is a Riverfront license, so it's just they're gonna probably sell their license.
Okay.
They're not my client, but it's my guess.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was just double checking the Riverfront map, district map, and the area of the mall where this would be located is included in that district. So we're good there. And this probably is a good time for me to do my normal summary. And the commission has the duty to review the application, determine whether the proposed project would provide an economic benefit to the Riverfront District, and recommend whether the project site should be considered eligible to be a permit premises per statute. Any motion to approve the application should also recommend that the project site be considered eligible to be a permit premises per IC 7-1-3-20-16D, and direct the mayor to communicate the approved recommendation to the Alcohol Beverage Commission.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll motion.
I second. Mr. Harris, second. You guys will have to do all the work today, you know that.
Yeah. We already discussed.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Just looking at the menu, looking forward to them opening up.
All right. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion approved 3-0. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir, gentlemen, ladies. Have a great day.
Nothing under old business, capital project report, Main Street, Madison Avenue streetscapes, change order number 6.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. And got a couple items today. The first is under streetscapes. We finally got all the quantities reconciled on that, and the final change order on that is $46,389.80. And that is where we finished that project out. And as you'll see on my second item, there's a certificate of substantial completion, but I think we should do them separately as two different items.
Is there a motion to approve change order number 6?
Make the motion.
Motion by Campbell, second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 3-0. All right, certificate of substantial completion.
And that project is substantially complete now. We are still holding just a little bit of money for landscape replacements, but I think it turned out pretty well. And so we'd ask to approve the certificate of substantial completion between the city and Morphe Construction.
Questions for Kevin on this one? Is there a motion? A motion.
Second.
Harris, second by Mr. Campbell. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 3-0. Greenwood Sports Park Complex change order for CXT concrete products.
Yeah, so this is kind of a cleanup. What had happened was we ordered 2 of these fully integrated bathrooms that also are ADA compliant. They basically get delivered to the site. One is at the sports park and one is at Northeast Park by the grade school up there. And I think we kind of tripped up the manufacturer because they kept trying to bid both the crane and delivery charges, or charge, not bid, up to Northern Park. Finally figured out that how to separate them. And the contract that we had gone through did not include the freight and crane delivery charges. So for Worsville Road, so this right side's that, and it is an increase to the contract that I believe Amanda had in your SharePoint of $39,514.88. Fun fact: those things also double as tornado shelters.
Where would these be located?
It's at Worsville Road Sports Park. It is right by the playground and splash pad. There's bathrooms that are much more significant in both of the 2 wagon wheels buildings for the 8 baseball fields. But this is kind of what we used at City Center Park and now at Northeast Park for the playground and the splash pad. So it'd be payable by the Worsville Road cash on hand test.
Any other questions for Kevin? Is there a motion to approve?
No motion. Second.
Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Campbell. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 3-0. For various capital project sites, contract for goods for Pointer sheet metal bike racks.
Yeah, so this is 12 bike racks from Pointer, who's come before this commission several years ago when they first started building, and then expansion. We have these G's throughout the city. We've kind of ran out of our stock, and we need some more at both the sports park and the Market Plaza project that we're finishing up, and in the public ways at the Madison. So we're lucky enough to have some redevelopment projects done to put them. I think they are payable by any of the TIFs. And I think, I can just work with the controller to figure out how he wants to do that based on where they go. But they've really held up well. And it's nice to be able to buy something that is made in Greenwood and employs Greenwood people.
Kevin on this one.
And not to exceed amount.
The not to exceed is 25,560 on a quote from Pointer.
Similar to what they charged us in the past.
It wasn't as bad as a quote that I got about 6 months ago, so I just kind of waited on it. It's up some obviously from the original ones, but it's primarily based on the price of the 304 stainless, which went absolutely crazy in 2023, but has come back down to earth a little bit. So it's a little up, from years past, but nothing like it was there for a brief time.
Motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
So Mr. Campbell, second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Yeah. All those opposed, nay. Motion approved 3-0. Greenwood signage on-call design and consultants professional service agreement with RLR.
Yeah, this is one that we have every year. So in December, I think you'll probably see some of the other recurring contracts that we have. And we use these to work on everything like the signage at the sports park and the field house. Some years we haven't used really hardly any of it, but we just authorize a not to exceed amount and can go to them for different things. What we used them most recently for was all the signs and wayfinding signs and internal rule signs and diamond signage and ADA signs at the sports park.
Questions for Kevin? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Campbell, second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thanks, Kevin.
Oh, thank you very much, and take care.
All right, financial reports, monthly financial report.
Yep. Good evening. This is Adam. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Awesome. Well, hey, it's good to see everyone. Appreciate the time. The monthly financial report's been updated. Nothing new to report there. The next two items are related. Item B, the annual report to taxing units. I'm going to try to share my screen and walk through that for any of those that may be on today's meeting or listening related to those taxing units. And item C on the agenda, the additional appropriations. Again, this is the public hearing, and those amounts are consistent with what's in the annual report to the taxing units that I'll share here now, if I may. Okay, share my screen. Can someone confirm that you can see this both on the Zoom and then in the room, please?
You can see it in the room for sure.
I'm not seeing it on Zoom.
Okay, you're seeing it in the, let me try.
I'm seeing it on Zoom.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Amanda.
Yep.
All right, very good. So I've got a handful of slides here, and I know I'm presenting this virtually, so I will try to be concise. One of the aspects of this is that to the extent that this presentation, if we want to be, you're allowed to be invited to the various different taxing units groups to present similar information. So I know we're happy to either provide this as a recording or happy to make attendance and work through any of those presentations as it would be helpful. Just as a summary for those of you that this is the first time seeing this presentation, this is a relatively new requirement of redevelopment commissions to be done annually. There's not a specific date that it has to be done. So the Greenwood in the last couple of years has elected to do this towards the end of the year only because we can have, at that point in time, we will have the budgets adopted, we'll have the certified incremental assessed values and TIF estimates for the incoming year. So rather than doing it at sort of hypotheticals, the city has elected to do it usually at its November regular meeting to have more precise numbers. And you can see that later on the agenda. The numbers that are within this presentation are within the appropriation limits as well. So there's three primary requirements that have to be included. One is the commission's budget, specifically as it relates to allocated property tax proceeds, description of the long-term plans for the areas, and then an impact on the taxing units that are within the area of the redevelopment district. So just as a refresher, and we'll make this PDF available, there's a couple different resources. If you're 100% new to TIF, it works largely based on trying to create funding sources from the real estate tax base from new projects to help fund the infrastructure and improvements necessary to make those projects a reality. AIM has a great video out there that you can see. And again, we'll link this to the presentation. And the 30,000 foot view of tax increment financing is that you utilize the new incremental real estate taxes as a captured funding source to help repay for the infrastructure required to make that project a reality, so that existing general fund budgets are not reduced or burdened to facilitate that growth. And then at the end of the TIF life period, usually 25 to 30 years, that TIF expires, and all of that new assessed value is then released back to the taxing units. Moving forward with the commission's budget, there's a couple different aspects here. The first is the majority of the committed dollars for the Redevelopment Commission is largely to service infrastructure and related bonds that are either issued primarily from the redevelopment district or developer bonds that have been entered into to induce and spur the economic development within those TIF areas. So at the end of 2025, you can see the total amount of principal outstanding broken down by the various different economic development areas, as well as in 2025, the total principal, interest, and debt service reserve transfers are $10,157,923. And again, these are appropriated both at the debt issuance level, the allocation area, and economic development area. Once we have an understanding of the debt service obligations, we can compare that with the certified incremental assessed values from the Johnson County Auditor's Office. We make an estimate of what we believe the beginning balance will be in January 1st for each allocation area. We utilize an estimate of tax rates and the certified values to project the tax increment finance revenues by area, how much is restricted or reserved for those debt services that you saw in the previous slide. And any net amount is referred to as this surplus TIF. That's the amount that's unpledged and available for other pay-as-you-go projects or other projects outlined within the economic development plans. And then from this, we establish the maximum estimated appropriations at the allocation area. So the appropriations are really established at the maximum level. In this case, they're looking at the anticipated revenues, debt obligations, and fund balance outstanding. These were set through public hearing, which you'll see here later in the agenda, and have went through the formal notice process as well.
Hey, Adam, I'm sorry, real quick.
Sure.
A quick back of the envelope estimate. Is your debt service about 2 to 1? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah, and you've got about 20, just shy of 20.2 million in revenues versus 10.1 in debt service.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so this provides a good planning tool to see what is out there. The one that is continues to be on the watch list is obviously Fry Road. That's the Greenwood Park Mall. And while the surplus TIF is the anticipated revenue is a little bit less than the debt service, we've worked really closely with the finance department and city controller, have a really good plan for that. Essentially 100% of the cash balance is committed to ensuring stability of that debt service obligation all the way through maturity here in a few years. So there's really no risk of repayment there whatsoever. That's one of the older TIFs, and it's nearing the end of its life.
Thank you.
So then looking at this more visually, This is these are all the different allocation areas that exist currently, ranked by size. You can see that East Side, Worsville, Central, Fry, and Southwest are really still the majority of the kind of appropriations, both revenues and expenses. East Side being about 55% of the total appropriations for 2025. So one new item that is upon redevelopment commissions this year is a new spend plan requirement. There's a couple different aspects to it. Greenwood, in a lot of senses, was already addressing some of this through it has been doing an additional appropriation process for as long as I can personally recall. The spend plan adds a couple different nuances. So one nuance is it adds a time to that. So by December 1st, each redevelopment commission now has to submit formally a annual spend plan. And then secondarily, it creates sort of a burden to amend that spend plan where needed. So the appropriations serve as the basis for that spend plan, and those documents have been provided. But as a summary, we look at we're estimating that at the beginning of 2025, there's just shy of about $20 million in total cash and investments on hand, with an additional $20,196,000 coming in new anticipated tax increment finance revenues. Those are anticipated. While we have the certified incremental assessed values, we do not yet have the final certified tax rates for each district or the circuit breaker amounts for each district. So we have tried to be conservative in our tax rate forecasts, but ultimately that is an estimate. So total available funds of the commission for 2025 is just short of $40 million. And then we've allocated that first and foremost to the debt payments, and then capital expenditures related to projects outlined in the economic development plans, professional services and expenses related to design and facilitation of those projects, as well as any other services and charges that may be categorized separately. So the total spend plan, or other words, the max spending outlined for the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission next year would be $37,922,960, which fully matches the appropriations that are up for public hearing today. Looking at the other aspect of the Redevelopment Commission, the Department of Redevelopment has a sort of administrative budget within the City of Greenwood's general fund. That budget has largely stayed the same over the last few years. It pays member per diems and miscellaneous professional services not related to a specific area and those types of things. It has this year, it's only spent about 22% of its total budget, even though we're more than 75% through the year at this point. For 2025, again, that adopted budget just went through council and was approved, and it is $35,100, which is the same budget as 2024. Switching gears, looking at the long-term plans for the area. So there are, again, these are authorized by Indiana Code. There's a very formal process to amend, create these areas. There's good maps on the city's website and CIS resources that outline very specific areas, parcel by parcel, which areas are in or not in an existing allocation area. Currently, there are 4 different economic development areas within the city that support and house 12 separate allocation areas or TIF districts. There were 2 new created this year. Formerly, one was the Del Webb and the other is the Anderson-Hauser allocation areas. As far as the common plan components, these are some of the kind of primary objectives or primary aspects of each of those areas. This language is consistent across a lot of the different areas. I would also say each economic development area has a specific plan associated with it. As far as common use of TIF dollars, they're primarily for planning, feasibility of various different aspects of real estate, architecture, engineering fees, legal and accounting, advertising, publication, issuance of bonds, obviously the service of those bonds, and all eligible expenses allowed by Indiana code. A lot of these, again, are project driven, that are projects outlined within the economic development plan of each area. As far as the long-term plans, the City of Greenwood has a pretty formal capital improvement planning process that dictates and sort of facilitates a lot of the pay-as-you-go. And then the project-specific, the Redevelopment Commission periodically updates those plans and makes amendments to those economic development plans to make sure that the projects and priorities are maintained and updated over the life of the areas. As far as impact, there's a few different underlining taxing units. There's a couple more here only because of the 3 different school districts that interact with these territories. So obviously you have the City of Greenwood as well as a base participant. You have the 3 different school districts: Pleasant Township, the County Council, Solid Waste District, Greenwood Library, Johnson County Library, and to an extent the state of Indiana as well through some of their overlays. These are all the units that we share respective borders with, and as a redevelopment commission, and ultimately their specific taxing district, their specific units rate ultimately grosses up to the district rate that the redevelopment commission is able to utilize with its taxing power as part of its special district. Over the last several years, the Greenwood allocation areas have grown steadily over time. You can see by allocation area how that has trended. And then again, at the end of each of these TIF lives, 100% of these amounts would be released to the base assessed value, which would have a positive impact on those units long term. Looking more specifically on the impact, impact is there's very much a direct and indirect aspect to this. When you look at potentially $1 billion in new property investment, there's a lot that comes with that. So one of the most critical aspects is maintaining the but-for test. We didn't talk about it in the TIF 101 component, but it's a very important standard for redevelopment commissions to maintain that, in other words, but for the redevelopment commission's investment, this project would not be viable. That's a critical threshold. In addition to that, once that is met, any incremental assessed value does benefit the school referendum rates as well. So that's a positive. That's a relatively recent change where those are exempt tax rates, and that's going to benefit those school districts that utilize that rate-based referendum. Obviously, the new economic development is going to have impact on jobs and residents and homes and all those types of things. So sort of a spillover effect here is real when you have a growing redevelopment area. There are budget realities with that, right? So 25 years in the future, all of that assessed value is going to come offline. That's good, but the budget realities still need to be understood. So from a county and city perspective, really the immediate impact is going to be on the rate-based funds. So in other words, they're general funds, street funds, and those types of things that are more levy-based. They're going to have, kind of a minimal, immediate, measurable impact because those funds are dictated that grow by different aspects. However, like the county's cumulative capital fund, the city's cumulative capital development fund, those rate-based funds are effectively getting less revenue on that AV since it's in the TIF as opposed to it being in the base. So that's a measurable impact and something that in the tax impact statements, as we go through the creation of we have to really quantify that. Additionally, long-term, that captured AV makes it to where when that is released, that's going to have a downward impact on tax rates in the area. So had that been sort of, released over time or, those kind of things, that the actual tax rate is typically usually a little elevated during that period of time. So that's going to impact sort of debt service levy opportunities during the life of the TIF, and then create a significant planning window when you get into like sort of the end of the year, into the life of the TIF districts as well, to make sure that is well planned and coordinated with those districts so that all that isn't really felt in sort of 1 year. And there's a few different TIF districts that are in that criteria, and we're working through that with those units to try to, communicate where and plan. And these meetings are trying to be as transparent there as possible. As far as additional information, all of this has been at the regular public meetings. If anyone who's listening from those taxing units is interested, I would encourage you to continue to follow the Redevelopment Commission and track these. But as far as the compliance, everything that is required has been completed and is either available on Gateway or the city's website. Today executes the last main compliance aspect for this calendar year, which is the presentation to the overlapping taxing units, as well as the introduction of the new spend plan requirements. In addition to this, there's other public documents that are available. The continuing bond disclosures related to the Redevelopment Commission are available on EMA. The TIF neutralization process was done at the August and September meeting. And then the city independently prepares an audited annual comprehensive financial report that notes and provides additional information relative to the redevelopment activities that may be of use for you. Additionally, if you're interested in learning more, there's a variety of sort of handbooks and academic studies done that we read and follow, and I would encourage anyone who's interested to follow as well. And then lastly, if there's any questions that you have of the report or in the information, I have my contact information down below if you would like any additional copies or have any clarification questions. Otherwise, that concludes the report, and I know I promised to be concise, so I'll leave it there and look forward to any questions.
Resolution 2024-04. I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody who wants to come forward and speak for or against, may do so now. If you're online, you come off mute. Speak your piece. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2024-04?
I'll motion that.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Campbell. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Resolution approved 3-0. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Reports. Mr. Hodson.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Watson.
Nothing to.
Mr. Wright.
One item on for me is the renewal of our professional services agreement with Stone Municipal Group. Same as previous years. Obviously, we just saw part of what we get from that.
Questions from Mr. Wright?
He deserves more than what we're paying.
Say that out loud. So.
Yeah, right. Is there a motion to approve the professional service agreement with Stone Municipal?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Campbell, second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 3-0.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anything from the engineer's office today? Anything from the mayor's office?
Nothing.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve our claims docket amount of $117,956.78?
I'll motion.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Campbell. Any questions from anybody? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 3-0. Anybody else who wants to talk to us today, either online or in the room?
I did send out, and it's on the SharePoint, the
Something?
proposed meeting dates for next year. I'm waiting to see what Center Grove sets as their fall to determine the October meeting. I didn't know if anybody had a feeling for either the 7th or the 21st. If it's the second week that fall break falls on, if there's any just something to think about, so we can have that ready at the next meeting.
Okay, we will keep that in mind.
Yeah, I believe Center Grove's,
It's already out somewhere. It's gonna
yeah,
be-
the week
It's usually the week that has Columbus Day in it.
yeah, October 12th through October 13th through 17th, which would be the same as Greenwood.
Same as Greenwood.
Yeah. I don't know if that's technically official, but that's what's out. That's the tentative schedule.
So that would be the standard week to meet, so would you be inclined to think to go forward or backward? I mean, 7th or 21st? I'll send an email out, and you guys can let me know.
I don't care one way or the other.
But the council meeting, either one.
All right. Hearing nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.